Welcome back, everybody, to Freelance Business Week. We are about to wrap it up. We have one more speaker coming, and her name is going to be Chloe Brooks. Chloe Brooks. And of course, right at the end, everything of my whole setup is starting to act up. Welcome, Chloe Brooks. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
Absolutely wonderful. She will be here speaking about the anti-burnout lifestyle. Earlier in the week, we had a beautiful presentation by Jess. If you did not catch that, make sure you catch it. It was wonderful. We got quite a bit of tips and tidbits from there. Now you get to get more from a different perspective, but also similar in a lot of ways. So here we are, Chloe Brooks. She will again be talking about the anti-burnout lifestyle. Take the floor. It's all yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today to listen to me talk about a topic that has pretty much ruled my entire freelance career in some way or another. And that topic is burnout. So, little about me. I'm a freelancer. I have been for 4 years now. Actually, Monday this week was my business anniversary. And I'm an Instagram strategist, which does not usually include a canoe and usually does not look quite as peaceful as this photo would have you believe. Because over the course of my career, I have burned out 3 times, and I'm not even 30 yet. The first time I burned out, I was a student. I was a sophomore in college. I was taking way too many courses. Some of them were probably too advanced for me. I had internships on top of that. I had extracurriculars that probably took too much time themselves. And it was just too much to handle. I got so exhausted, I almost dropped out. The next time, I was at a startup marketing agency, which is my first job out of college. And I was working 3 jobs. Actually, I was doing 3 people's jobs, which was a lot. It was too much on my plate, honestly. And then my mother passed away. And I did not have the capacity to process a major trauma and do 3 people's jobs. So I burned out so bad, they ended up firing me. That's actually why I started freelancing, is because I couldn't stand the idea of going back to work in a similar environment that was going to burn me out. And that's all I could see startups as at that point. So 2 years later, after freelancing for a couple of years, I burned out again so badly that I almost lost my business, honestly. And in fact, I went for a few months at a time where I didn't have any clients. So then, of course, I was asking myself, can I really call myself a freelancer? Am I really a business if I don't have the revenue coming in? So what is burnout anyway? Officially, it is a syndrome which is characterized by chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And so that can look like energy depletion or exhaustion, as well as growing mental distance from your job. You may also experience increased feelings of negativity and cynicism around your job. So you might start feeling resentful of the tasks that you have on your plate or of your clients. You may also have reduced professional efficacy, which really just means that you're no longer as good at doing your job as you used to be. And that's all according to the World Health Organization, which officially declared burnout a syndrome in 2019. But it doesn't really give you the full picture, because stress, which we know is bad for us, long-term has way more effects than that makes it sound like. So you might have a weakened short-term memory. So stuff just doesn't stick in your head anymore. You may experience a shorter attention span. You just can't seem to focus on your tasks. You may have impaired cognitive functioning like decision-making. So you have a harder time making decisions, or you doubt your decisions. Maybe you have less ability to regulate your moods. So you may have more intense mood swings than you're used to, or you may feel emotions more intensely, especially the negative ones. And we freelancers are susceptible to this especially because we don't have the built-in support system that comes with traditional employment. If a client harasses us, there's no HR team to turn to. If a client sues us, we don't have legal to lean on. We have to be the CEO and the intern and everything in between. And that's an insane amount of pressure to be riding on us constantly. So It's crucial to have a system for preventing and managing that kind of intense stress so that it does not boil over into burnout. And that's what I'm here to show you today. You're not going to get some cure-all for burnout, but what you will get today is a strategic framework as well as the tools to flesh it out on your own so that you'll be able to prevent burnout in these areas of your life. So you should be able to leave here today with your own personal anti-burnout strategy. And that's going to cover these 4 areas that you see here: research, reframe, rest, and ritual. You're going to learn how you work as a human. You're going to prioritize rest in your life because chances are you're not getting enough of it. You're going to reframe the way that you think. And you're going to incorporate ritual instead of routine. So the thing about this strategy is that it's not a one-time use thing. You can't just do it once and think that's going to be enough. Burnout is a chronic issue and it's ongoing, and it seeps into every little crevice if you let it. So your prevention plan also has to play the long game. The first step is research. Any good strategy starts with research, because if you don't have data, you're flying blind. You don't know what to fix until you see it. So we're going to start by gathering as much data about you as you possibly can. And the first way to do that is through a journaling and self-reflection habit. We did not go solo to get stuck in yet another business that doesn't work for us. But we can't build a business that works for us until we know how we work. So if you already journal, great, you've got a head start. But if not, I'm begging you, please start. This can only help you. It's not a huge demand on your time. Just set aside 10 to 15 minutes per day to reflect and record what's going on with you. Not as much your activities that you do, as much as the way that you think and feel. What's going on behind the curtain. And if you don't feel like you can dedicate 10 minutes a day to this, then I want to suggest that maybe you already are burned out. Because if you don't even have 10 minutes a day to yourself, that's definitely going to lead to some increased stress. So make this a priority. If writing is not your thing, great. You don't have to write it down on paper. If you're more of a talker, you can record a video of yourself talking, or you can record a voice memo. I even had a friend once whose favorite journaling method was posting to social media, but only on a private account that no one else knew about. And so that's a way that she still kept track of her day. How you record the data doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that you do have it and you can refer back to it. Because honestly, every other step of this presentation builds on the research into yourself that you do. So, for example, maybe 3 months into your journaling habit, you flip back through your entries and you see, oh, hey, my anxiety spikes every time a client calls my phone instead of emailing me. And for me, an anxiety spike might mean hours of lost time where I spent worrying instead of working. So now that you see that pattern emerge, you can say, all right, well, how can I mitigate that stress so that it doesn't happen in the future and continue to derail me? Maybe you can reiterate your communication policies with that client and say, hey, actually, please email me instead. Maybe you need to turn your phone on Do Not Disturb while you're working. Maybe that's a way that you can mitigate that stress. Maybe you need to see a therapist for your anxiety. It depends on the person. So look into yourself through your journaling, and this can show you where the cracks are in your business that unaddressed will break it. Next, I want you to use a personality assessment tool. And one of my favorite ones is the Clifton Strengths profile from Gallup. It's basically a list of 34 different strengths. And based on how you answer the questions in the quiz, it ranks them for you. So which ones are your highest, which ones are your lowest. And it really is focused around your strengths and talents and how they show up in your work. So for me, looking at my results of this assessment helps me to refocus the services that I offer in my business. I'm a social media strategist, I had said earlier, but before I was calling myself a social media manager. And I didn't like the management part nearly as well as I liked the strategy. Turns out strategic was actually my #2 strength on the Clifton Strengths Assessment. So that gave me the courage to narrow my focus, limit my services, and actually do the work that I enjoyed doing more. Another one you can try is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI. This one is much more about your decision-making and your communication and generally how you approach the world as an individual. Based on how you answer the questions, it assigns you one of 16 personality types, which includes 4 different traits. So mine, I'm an INFJ, which stands for introverted, intuiting, feeling, and judging. We are the rarest type, and we're especially prone to burnout. Who knew? So taking this actually helped me understand my need for solitude to recharge as an introvert. And then that in turn shaped the way that I approached rest, which we'll get to later, as well as the rituals that I put in place to protect that rest. Again, we'll get to that later. And then the last tool that really helped me was my birth chart, which is basically your horoscope on steroids. And I know maybe it sounds a little less scientific than some of the other methods, but you don't have to believe in something 100% for it to still give you valuable insight into how your brain works. So keep that in mind. For me, this just uncovered more behavior patterns, some of which absolutely were contributing to my burnout cycle. So I knew I was a Scorpio, but I didn't know that I was a Leo moon. The horoscope, like your main sign is your sun. Turns out that Leo moons really need validation and approval and applause. And I was neglecting that side of what I needed. I had absolutely no system in place for collecting client feedback or testimonials or reviews. And what would happen is that without that incoming feedback, I would feel undervalued in that working relationship. Because I felt undervalued, I would feel resentful of that client. Because I felt resentful of the client, I didn't put my heart into the work anymore, which led to worse results, which increased my stress, which led to burnout. Other tools that might work for you might be your Enneagram, if that's something you're into, or you can retake the 5 love languages quiz. The specific tools you use don't matter as much as the fact that it's going to connect the dots for you. You need to understand yourself as a human and all the different pieces that fit together to understand how best to prevent you from burning out. So as you're going through each of these tools, whichever tools you choose, I want you to ask yourself, what recurring themes can you spot? What new trends are emerging? What needs of yours are not currently being met in your business? Because once you have all that data in front of you, you can see these issues a lot more clearly. And once you see them, then you can set about fixing them. But you have to do this research step first. Speaking of fixing, the first way to do that is we're going to reframe the way that you think about yourself and the way that you speak to yourself. So many of us are just way too hard on ourselves. We push ourselves to do and be extra to prove our expertise as a business of one. We play the comparison game. So-and-so freelancer made 6 figures their first year, and I haven't signed a client in 3 months. I'm a failure. We have such high standards for ourselves because our name is on everything. We're the sole proprietor and we're the sole person responsible. And so then, when we can't meet these unrealistically high standards for ourselves, we feel like complete failures. And then, that failure, it gels in our brains into this gross glob of insecurity and self-doubt and limiting beliefs and negative self-talk. And then we spiral into this dark hole of imposter syndrome and we convince ourselves that we're no good at anything and just can't do our jobs. As a human being existing in the world, especially on the internet, as we freelancers have to be, that negativity is going to find you anyway. There's going to be trolls in the comments. There's going to be tire kickers who criticize your pricing structure. There's going to be clients take advantage of you. That negativity is out there and you will run into it eventually. Just don't let it come from you, okay? You have to be a safe space for yourself because nowhere else will be if you aren't. How you talk to yourself and how you think about yourself matters. So speak only good things. And as mentioned earlier, Jess Manizak, who spoke on Tuesday this week, I believe, had an amazing point about affirmations, which is where we're going with this. Her point was that sometimes an issue that people have with affirmations is that they can feel kind of fake, because when you're feeling really down about yourself, some of the positive affirmations that are so glowing and rainbow unicorn-esque just don't ring true. So her amazing point was that affirmations can be neutral. You don't have to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. You're just not the worst. Another way that I've found to help affirmations ring true is to go back to step 1 and review your personal data that you collected there. And the issues that come up in that step, you're going to craft affirmations around them so that they specifically address those underlying problems. There's 4 ways to do this. You can take a limiting belief and turn it on its head. So one limiting belief that has really held me back in my business until recently is that deep down, I am just not a likable person. I know that my family and friends love me, but I don't always believe people when they say that they like to be around me, that they enjoy my company. And honestly, if you look back at some of my older marketing, that is so obvious that I don't believe that about myself. And so then I wouldn't attract good fit clients because I wouldn't think that they would find me likable enough to work with me. And so I would settle for clients I knew were a bad fit, but they were willing to pay. So why not sign them? So instead of, I am an unlikable human being deep down inherently, turn it on its head. You're actually not unlikable. Actually, you're a joy in others' lives, and you have the power to change anyone's day for the better. The second way is that you can validate yourself. Give yourself the compliments that you wish you could hear from other people. So instead of, I'm not cool enough to work with my dream clients, turn it on its head, give yourself a compliment, and say, I deserve clients who light me up. I will make some clients' day with the skills I have. Third, you can envision the future or imagine the future and then affirm it for yourself as though it already exists. So think about what you feel currently versus how you want to feel. And the affirmation should lead you from point A to point B. So instead of, I'm having the hardest time finding good clients. No. Envisioning the future and affirming it for yourself becomes, I easily attract soulmate clients who are thrilled to pay my pricing. And then the last way to craft an affirmation for yourself, the last one we're going to cover today, there are so many more, I'm sure, is that even the joking negative self-talk has to go. It has to become something positive. So if you make a mistake, if you mess up, don't say to yourself, I'm such an idiot. No, you're not an idiot. You are constantly growing and learning and evolving as a human. And everyone makes mistakes, and that's normal. And mistakes are a learning opportunity. It's okay to laugh at yourself, but you can't beat yourself up anymore. You have to give yourself some freaking credit, okay? This is a practice, okay? This is ongoing. This is not a one and done. It only takes a few minutes a day to go through this. Maybe you feel like you need to go through it a few times a day. I often do. But over time, these affirmations and their effect on your head, on your brain, is cumulative. The more you hear good things about yourself, the more you believe them. And the more that you believe good things about yourself, the easier it is for you to feel good about yourself. And when you feel good about yourself, you're not going to be as stressed, as prone to burnout. 6 months ago, before I really was doing affirmations, I absolutely would not have applied to speak at this. And now here I am, nervous as hell, but here, wouldn't have applied before. And that's where affirmations and changing your mindset can take you. Another thing to reframe is your relationship to rest and work, because the freelance space is overrun. And not just the freelance space, actually. It's the entire business, entrepreneurial sort of genre or niche. It's overrun with the word hustle. And it makes me want to barf, because the people pushing hustle culture have convinced us, whether implicitly or explicitly, honestly, it's both, that only money-making activities are worth our time. I don't want to pick on anyone here, but two that come to mind are Grant Cardone, when he said that to be successful, you need to work a 95-hour work week. And Gary Vaynerchuk, who advocates for working 18-hour days your entire first year of business. That's not sustainable. 95 hours working in a week. That's 2.5 work weeks crammed into one. And an 18-hour day plus 8 hours of sleep is 26 hours, which is more than there is in a day. And that's not accounting for literally anything other than work and sleep. There's no chance to move your body. There's no bathroom breaks. No chance to step away from your computer to have a meal. No shutting off your brain for just 1 second. So hustle culture is a scam. It really is. It has scammed us into thinking that we have to always be working. And it's cheated us out of our rest and our peace. Think about if you've ever sat down to relax. I know that this happens for me more than I would like it to. I feel like probably it does for you too. You ever sat down to relax, but you can't stop thinking about all of the work you still have to get done? And so then your relaxation time is ruined because you're still thinking about work and you can't shut it off. What about if you decide, all right, I'll just squeeze in a little bit more work and that way I can earn this break? That's hustle culture. That's hustle culture cheating you out of rest. You cannot serve your clients well if you're not rested. One of the symptoms of burnout is a brain fog, which for us freelancers translates into stuff like forgetting details of a project or forgetting to respond to emails or making mistakes in your work or lost creativity. I like to compare it to like when sometimes your phone runs slower when the battery's almost dead. It takes us more energy to function when we're that run down. And then because we make more mistakes when we're run down, it also takes us more energy to go back and fix the mistakes. And it's a vicious cycle. You shouldn't have to finally get to rest because you've earned your rest or because you have to rest. You should get to rest because you deserve rest as a human being, not as a money-making machine. Rest is work. And for burnout prevention, rest is the most important work. Rest is how you mitigate stress. So don't let your battery get to 5% so that it's a crisis trying to find an outlet to plug in. Plug in at 50% so that you always have enough juice to get you through the day or through the week. You have to intentionally reclaim that rest before hustle culture swallows it all up. And you do that by setting and maintaining boundaries. So maybe a boundary to protect your rest is you don't look at your phone when you wake up until a certain time. I know the first thing I do usually is I wake up and I check my phone, but then we're immediately in work mode because we see emails, we start worrying about deadlines, we start reminding ourselves of everything we have to get done. And our morning is already stressful and we're not even out of bed. So maybe that's a boundary that can protect your morning and make it more restful. Maybe you pause your email inbox until a certain time of day and you only check it at those times. Maybe you allow yourself to only serve a certain number of clients at a time and then raise your rate so that you can afford to only serve a certain number of clients at a time. Maybe remember that the lower your battery gets, the longer it takes you to recharge. So as you're building in this rest, make sure that it's frequent. Don't save it all to the weekend. Give yourself something that's restful every day, every week, and every month. So maybe every day, you know that at 12:30, I'm going to step away from my desk and go for a 30-minute walk around my neighborhood. Maybe every Tuesday, you know that you have non-negotiable taco night with your family. Maybe every month you give yourself one day that's just a me day and you do whatever you want as long as it's rest. If you can, this is not always possible. If you can, give yourself time that's rest that doesn't include any screens, okay? Give your brain time not to be stimulated, because part of that brain stimulation is part of what makes us so stressed. So if you give yourself a chance to turn off, that's going to be more restful than if you were resting but constantly still consuming. Now, the thing about boundaries, and the boundaries specifically that you have to set to protect your rest, is that they're a lot easier to set than maintain. Because maintaining a boundary is really just forming a new habit. And anyone who's ever made a New Year's resolution knows how that usually goes. So the next part of this strategy is going to help you enforce those boundaries, and it's rituals. I want you to forget that you ever heard that you should have a good routine in your business, because nobody likes a routine. Let's be honest. Routines are boring. They are usual and everyday and dreary and blah and stuck in a rut. Routines are usually something that you have to do, not something that you want to do. But we got into business for ourselves because we wanted to. So shouldn't we want to do some of these things that are so awful? Instead, turn those routines, things that you feel like you have to do, even though they are necessary and important, and maybe you even used to enjoy them, turn it into a ritual. Rituals have sparkle. Ritual is shiny, and humans love shiny things. It's special and it's out of the ordinary. Ritual is sacred, and it demands reverence and respect. And that respect makes it easier to enforce that boundary. It makes it non-negotiable. So take a look at the routines that you have set up in your business and look at how you can turn them into rituals. If you go back to step 1 with our journaling and self-reflection habit, that one's a really easy example to turn into a ritual instead of a routine. So maybe a routine for that would be every first Monday of the month, you give yourself an hour in the morning to review your journal entries and notice any trends. Okay, it's important, it's helpful, but it doesn't exactly seem fun. It actually seems like homework. And when we have more than we can handle on our plates already, the last thing we need is more homework. A ritual for that would be the same nuts and bolts. You're still sitting down and reviewing your journal, but it's got something that you look forward to and are excited about too. So maybe every first Monday of the month, you treat yourself to a Starbucks latte instead of your homemade drip. Or maybe you allow yourself to do that one task from bed, or what I like to call my soft office, instead of from your desk. Maybe you burn the expensive candle just for that. So think about what will make this special for you, something that you're going to look forward to. Other examples might be maybe the end of every workday you have a meditation to release the stresses of the workday and transition into your evening. Maybe every time you have a discovery call with a potential new client, you first have your own private little pep rally with affirmations and pump up music. Maybe you have a weekly happy hour with some of your freelancer friends. Some things cannot become a ritual. Some things are just, you got to get through them. But there's more stuff that can become ritualized than you think. So I really encourage you to take a look at where you can add more fun and more play into your business. Give yourself permission to have fun and play. Give yourself permission to work in a way that works for you. I want you to give yourself permission to rest when you need it, not just give into hustle culture because it's what society expects of you and it's what everyone else seems to be doing. Give yourself permission to own your day, regardless of what your imposter syndrome tells you. You get to decide what's happening today and how you feel. Give yourself permission to figure it out and to make it work for you. Decide what you will and won't accept. I believe in you. I think you got this. I know you got this. I think you should believe in you too.
And let me come off of mute because God knows, as you heard me say all week, I've done that where I've just stayed on mute. All right. Thank you so much, Chloe, for that. It was an awesome presentation.
Oh, thank you.
You had my heart there, girl. You had my heart because you share so many ideals that I love sharing with people. So that to me was awesome. We do have some comments coming through. One was from Hedi Hayes. She loves the Clifton strengths. And then also loves that purple, which we love the purple heart.
Oh, yes.
All right, from Walter. Another word I take issue with is passion. So overused and not really a positive if you think about it. Passion is something that burns hot and therefore quickly.
Yes.
It can also have negative connotations of extreme mood swings, profound elation, but also anger. I prefer steady as she goes and level-headed.
Yes, definitely taking it one step at a time. I think passion gets thrown around a lot too. And I think it can be misleading, especially for younger freelancers, because sometimes we don't know what our main big drive is yet. And maybe we're passionate about a lot of things. I'm passionate about plants. I'm passionate about defeating burnout. I'm passionate about cookies. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about, but not everything is going to be where I want to focus. So I agree.
Yes. And then we have a couple more. I like the idea of getting excited about or looking forward to getting in touch with my needs. That's such a helpful framework and keeps me time from becoming another task on my endless to-do list.
Yes. In fact, I'm glad that you said this, Hedi, because one of the things that contributed to my own burnout cycle was that I wasn't putting my needs first in my business. I was making sure my clients were served until I was too burned out to actually help them. But I wasn't taking care of me and what I needed. One thing that journaling really helped with was that it kept putting me front and center in my business by constantly reviewing how I'm feeling and checking in with myself that way. And looking back over it and seeing this stuff evolve, that's one way I can make sure that I'm still focused on what I need from my business.
I love it. Love it. Also, she has a question about affirmations. How can I find affirmations that I'll actually use?
Okay, so that's a good question. I would really encourage you, though, not to try to find them as much as craft them for yourself. So if you need a little bit of a creative jumpstart, go ahead, Google affirmations for an insert issue here. So affirmations for imposter syndrome, or for self-confidence, or affirmations for anxiety. Or you can look on Instagram under hashtags too, instead of just Googling. Or Pinterest is also another good source. However, a lot of the ones that you find online are going to be geared for other people's needs, not necessarily you specifically. And some of them might work for you, but you're going to have to wade through stuff that doesn't. And when burnout is an issue, we don't have energy to spare. So I would really recommend instead going back to step one, looking at all of the issues that come up for you in your journaling and in your personality assessments and in any other tool that you use for self-discovery. And then craft your affirmations around those specific issues so that you know that they work for you. Actually, the least effective affirmation on the list that I go through for me was one that I found on Google, and the most effective ones were ones that I wrote for myself. So give it a shot. You can always add or take away affirmations as you go. That's your decision to make.
I love how you put that, Chloe, because that's something I do with my coaching clients. It's an exercise of going through, like, how do they see themselves? And
yes.
Ultimately, there's a lot of affirmations that come out of that. And it's not so much how they see themselves currently, but how do they want to see themselves?
Absolutely.
And it helps, like, from day to day of remembering how they actually want to see themselves. And that becomes their affirmations.
Yes.
So.
And you know what you say becomes true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as you're crafting your affirmations.
Agreed. Definitely agree. One that's very insightful.
Oh, thank you.
Let me just double check on the other side to make sure I got all the comments. Awesome. All right. Well, do you have any last words, advice, or anything for the audience?
I will say that if you're sitting here absorbing all of this and you're doubting whether or not you can actually do it, maybe you don't need to do it yourself. Maybe you need someone with you to do it. We as freelancers so often tend to think that we have to do everything ourselves because we're solopreneurs. But trying to do everything yourself doesn't make you a superhero. It makes you exhausted, and exhaustion leads to burnout. So if you need support implementing this process, I'm here for you. Maybe you need a therapist as well. Maybe you need another kind of coach. Maybe you need to outsource some tasks. You need a team. Whether or not they're on your payroll, you need a team. So don't try to do it all yourself.
I love that. Especially being a freelancer, we get caught up into this bubble and we stay in our bubble instead of actually reaching out to the community. And we have a worldwide community of freelancers as well as others who we can reach out to. One of the things,
and
go ahead.
Chances are, if it's something that you're feeling doubtful about, or you're feeling, if you're struggling with it as well, chances are other freelancers are too. So
exactly. And I think we also struggled a lot. There was one, and I'm going to come back. I know I just said to have you have your last words, but you mentioned quite a bit with hustle culture scam. And
I get heated on that topic.
And I love that you actually talked about that, because I used to try to keep up with a lot of that stuff, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning every morning. And, there were some benefits, but after a while, like you said in your presentation, it's not sustainable for a long period of time. So
it's really not.
It's not necessarily a lifestyle per se for most people. Not saying that people can't do that, but for most people, it's not a lifestyle that 7 days a week for 365 days a year, they're getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. So I'm not human before 6, so
I'm about 7, 8 o'clock. So,
I'm barely human by 6.
Yes.
I don't start work until 10 because I know that I need that time in the morning to fully, as my family says, defrost.
Mhm.
So that's a boundary that I have for myself. I might start work a little earlier, but officially I don't start work until 10 a.m.
And it's funny you mentioned that because I'm like that with my clients. I don't schedule clients prior to 10 a.m.
Right.
Like that morning time is my time.
You have to work on your business at some point.
Yes, exactly. And you got to have set times and not be all over the place. Another thing that
Absolutely.
put was the reaching for the phone. And the thing that it reminded me of was Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins has this thing where she does not bring any technology into her bedroom. And
I'm working up to that.
I love it. I've tried it multiple times, and every time I catch myself reverting back, I see issues. And
Yes.
every time I keep my phone out of the room, even if I have to put it in the bathroom, if I keep it out of the room, it's one, a better night's sleep. Two, I don't reach for it first thing. And three, it gives me more of a better awakening from my sleep. And
Yes.
I don't have to like go straight to social media or straight to emails or straight to whatever else there is. It's just I get that quiet time to myself to mentally prepare for my day.
You get to be present in your morning.
Yes, yes, and that starts our day off. Just for me, it starts my day off so much better than reaching for
Yes.
the phone.
So much. It's a much more relaxed pace, I think.
It is,
And I think that the first few minutes when you wake up really kind of set the tone for your day. Not strictly, but in a way, it shapes everything.
right.
So why would you start it off all stressful?
Correct. It's to me, it's not necessarily worth it. I'm going to pop a comment in here that we just received.
Thank you.
And then one more. And I love this comment because I actually do it.
Oh, yes. I need to get better about using the Do Not Disturb on my phone. I put it on Do Not Disturb for this, but I don't often throughout the workday. And I think I should. I think I need to start doing that.
I do that at night. So from like 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., my phone is on Do Not Disturb. And that has also made a huge difference where you don't hear pings, even if you have silent, and I also have it set up for those emergency.
Yes. Certain people can get through.
Exactly. You decide who those certain people are. So I have
that's a boundary.
Yes, exactly. Because everybody's emergency is not an emergency. So that Do Not Disturb feature is amazing to have, especially in the evenings. And just like Chloe said, right during your workday, because it can be very distracting every time you hear those pings and stuff on your phone. The first thing we want to do is grab the phone.
Yes. And then it takes us, I don't even remember how long. There's some crazy stat about how it takes us something like, it's 20. I don't know if it's seconds or minutes, but I think it was 20 minutes to actually get our attention focused back on something every time we hear a notification and go switch our attention to it.
I have heard that. And it's a distraction. So I think it's really boundaries is having discipline with our phones, because our phones can really push us towards burnout as well.
Yes. Oh man. They're designed to suck you in.
They are. All right. Well, we are going to close out. That is the last of the comments as of right now. That doesn't mean that you have to have them come in. Chloe still will see them. Zoe spoke before you. Chloe still will see them, so definitely keep having them come in. We thank you for being here. We are having our closeout session at 3:30 Central, 3:30 Central, where all the organizers, or as many as that's going to join, will be on. We also going to be using Topia for the networking part of it. Make sure you join. This is one of my favorite parts of the week, is the close out. Again, you've heard me say this all week long, and I will continue to say, grab that $49 all access ticket. There has been so many great speakers this week, so much information that was given to us, so much knowledge that was dropped on us, that you don't miss out on that. So make sure you grab your ticket so that you can go back and see all of the replays throughout this whole week. All right. Thank you again for joining us, Zoe. We really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us for Freelance Business Week. Again, stay for the closeout session. It will be up soon. Again, 3:30 Central Time. 3:30 Central Time. We'll see you then. Have a good one.